our War and Navy departments present December 7th.
Would you please repeat the last paragraph I gave you, Miss Kim?
Certainly, Uncle Sam. For tropical beauty, and I'm not excluding the opposite sex, this little island of Oahu has no peer as a vacation land.
Fine. New paragraph. Imagine the transition, Jonathan. You hop a clipper in San Francisco, and in less than 24 hours, you're in paradise. Silenced is the endless ringing of the telephone. Banished are Messrs. Hurry, Scurry, Worry and Company. Inaudible the hubbub of labor disputes. Gone the nerve-wracking feeling that the world in general is a whirling mess and that America in particular can't make up its mind which way it wants to spin, if at all. Yes, sir, Jonathan. When your corns begin to ache and bite, there's only one thing to do. Take your shoes off. And that's just exactly what I've done. On a flower-covered hilltop in Honolulu, TH, territory of heaven. Hawaii, romantic, mystical Hawaii, where the air is choked with the fragrance of 1,000,000 flowers.
Air choked with the fragrance of 1,000,000 flowers.
Oh, yes, Miss. I got carried away. All right, we'll continue. Yes, Jonathan, nature has been most generous. But there is more on this sun-gilded island than flowers and trees.
I'll say there is.
Oh, it's you. Yes, I might have known. Miss Kim, we'll continue with this later. The mood is gone.
Go on with your letter. I might suggest a few things to add to it. They won't be as lyrical as the air choked with the fragrance of 1,000,000 flowers, but they'll be as factual.
You're not only an intruding gent, but a mule-eared eavesdropper as well. Thank you, Miss Kim.
Good morning, Mr. C.
Good morning, Miss Kim. You know, you're a strange fellow, U.S. One look at me and up goes your dander. Ah, that's no way to treat an old business partner.
Old business partner, indeed.
Well, let's say associate for many years.
Too many years.
Yes. A good long time. You were a youngster in knee pants when we first locked horns. You were tearing yourself into 13 parts over a book of rules you were getting up called the Constitution. As I remember, it was up you and pulled all 13 parts of you into one solid hunk of oak. Then again, when you were a lanky, cocky adolescent, not quite 90 years old, you chose up sides and started to knock the blocks off each other. Took quite a bit of reasoning with both sides.
Yes, and you've been reminding me of it ever since.
Oh, that's my job.
All right. What is it you want?
I've come to go over the books with you. The year 1941 is nearly over, and there's some balancing to be done.
Can it wait? I'm on a vacation.
You've done a lot of vacationing this year. The worst part of it, you haven't been having any fun. Your heart hasn't been in it, now has it?
Why, of course, certainly, sure it has.
You can't fool me with that star-studded front of yours. You're not hitting on all 12. Something's eating you inside.
Yes. You.
Thank God for that. Thank God my small voice is able to reach you. That's what makes you, every 130 millionth part of you, a pretty decent fellow. Deep down underneath.
Yes, you're a wily old scalawag, Mr. C, but well, you can't hoodwink me with your flattery. No, sir. I'm onto your ways, and by Jehoshaphat, I'll be darned if I'm going to let you spoil my fun.
You're not going to let me, but I will.
Since I had to be saddled with a conscience, why, dear Lord, did you have to hog-tie me to such an irascible, determined parasite like this one?
Here, you see. Only a few minutes, and I got you praying already.
All right, what's the use? Okay, let's take a look at the books.
You're a good boy. Now, where shall we start?
Anywhere, but let's get on with it.
All right, now let's say Hawaii. I wonder how much you know about sugarcane and pineapples.
Sugarcane and pineapples? Well, I don't know exactly what's behind that lawyer approach of yours, but I know a good deal about sugarcane and pineapples.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do. It's a pioneering story that compares favorably with the opening of the West. It's a story of a miracle in an arid, sun-smitten desert created by a handful of adroit men with indomitable courage. They and their doughty descendants put into cultivation 244,000 acres of pest-free, strong, vigorous weeds, chock full of sweet sap, an annual crop of 2 tons a century ago, 1 million tons today, over $50 million worth a year. Big business. On soil less favorable for growing cane, they planted pineapples. 90,000 acres under cultivation in half a century. About 13 million cases of canned fruit shipped yearly. Big business, too. Where once was a village of grass huts, a modern American city arose. Honolulu, the pearl of the Pacific. A modern, up-to-the-minute city. The territorial building, the municipal building, the library with its many branches, the University of Hawaii, the King Kamehameha School, over 300 public and private schools, Honolulu Academy of Arts with its priceless collection of art and paintings, lovely streets and homes. Beautiful houses of worship representing all denominations. Luxurious hotels, the Royal Hawaiian and the Moana on legendary Waikiki Beach, a bustling port, a haven for ships of all nations, and the Big Five, Castle and Cook, Alexander and Baldwin, C. Brewer and Company, Theo H. Davies and Company, American Factors, the Big Five, the backbone, the nerve center, the brain of the territory, grandsons, aunts, uncles, in-laws, held together by blood ties and interlocking directorates. Scratch one and the other bleeds. Yes, sir. That, my dear Mr. C, is what was accomplished with a sweet weed and a spiny pineapple in 1 century. And that's what I know about sugarcane and pineapples.
As usual, you're very well informed. You've covered the subject perfectly, with one exception, labor. It took human hands to plow, till, and seed that desert soil, to irrigate it, fight the pests, harvest and gather the crop.
Of course it did, and they've done a good job, too.
They? Who are they?
Why, the natives.
You're a great one to play ostrich when you want to. You know as well as I do that the majority of laborers were and are Japanese.
Well, what about it?
Oh, nothing. But just for the record, let's not overlook the majority of the population here, the Japanese. They too had their pioneers. They didn't come here to spread the gospel or to venture in trade. They were brought here as contract laborers to supply the needed manpower for those Yankee pioneers who got here first. Back in the 1860s, they came in driblets, later in buckets full. Some saved their money and went back to the land of their fathers. Others, seeking better working conditions and broader opportunities, went on to the Pacific coast. Most of them, however, sank their roots, raised their families, buried their loved ones, and settled permanently. There are a lot of them now, 157,000. 37% of the population of the islands. That's their 1941 telephone book, published for them in Japanese. And that's their newspaper, published by them. They have several daily newspapers of their own, a few semi-weeklies and weeklies. They have their own magazines, too. A goodly share still work in the sugarcane plantations. A goodly share still work in the pineapple fields. But they developed their big five, too. Not as financially potent and powerful, but very solid indeed. Inch by inch, their sons, grandsons, uncles, aunts, cousins began to penetrate into the industrial life of the island. And all the time, their numbers were growing. Merchants, fishermen, storekeepers, doctors, manufacturers, dentists, servants, truck farmers, nurses, ad infinitum. Yep, there are a lot of them. Yep, there are a lot of them. 157,000.
And about 120,000 are full-fledged American citizens. Don't forget that. Conduct themselves accordingly. Listen to what Dr. Shunzo Sakamaki, chairman of the Oahu Citizens Committee for Home Defense, had to say at a patriotic rally.
We are not assembled here this evening to put on an act or a show. We want to carry our full share of the burden of national defense. We are here to repledge, one with another, our unreserved loyalty to the United States of America. This we do freely, gladly, proudly. There are those who question our sincerity, who doubt our loyalty. But if they would only pause and reflect, they would realize that there is no justification for such an attitude. After all, we were born here. Our homes, our friends, our livelihood, our future are all deeply bound up with this native land of ours. We realize how fortunate we are to be living in this of all the lands of the earth, and we cherish our heritage as Americans. These are not mere words spoken for effect, with tongue in cheek. And we wish to add in unmistakable language that if and when war comes, no matter with what other country, we will give our lives, if necessary, in defense of those democratic principles for which other Americans have lived and fought and died.
As American a spirit as exists in any New England community, by gobs.
A hyphenated spirit. Yes, they express their loyalty and no doubt are loyal. They send their children to American public schools where they pledge allegiance to the flag and sing patriotic American songs. But they also send them to their own language schools, 175 of them, where they're taught Japanese loyalties, culture, and morals.
日本の3つの主な都会は何ですか？東京と大阪と横浜です。
In addition to their Buddhist and Christian churches, they brought with them their so-called religion, Shintoism, and devoutly follow its teaching.